Update for travelers in and out of PNG. Lae District getting ready for COVID-19. And prominent citizens graduate from Divine Word.
This is National EMTV News with Jeremy Mogi.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for Monday's news. The Lae District is expected to set aside up to $1 million kina to boost its state of readiness against the coronavirus. Lae MP John Rosso was expected to meet with the district administration and health authorities to allocate funding. His announcement comes a day after the Prime Minister outlined several measures, including travel restrictions.
The Lae District's efforts are expected to complement existing preparations by a medical team in the Morobe province. Today, the Lae MP met with the district administration team to look at funding that will be used to prepare the city for a possible outbreak.
Lae will be putting out a big awareness program on giving us ideas on how to combat this and for preventative methods. And we will try to budget $1 million kina to...
John Rosso's announcement comes on the back of another announcement by the Prime Minister yesterday outlining travel restrictions for border crossers and government workers, as well as a 60-day ban on cruise ships. Travellers from high-risk countries are also expected to produce medical evidence of a 14-day quarantine prior to being allowed into the country.
For pharmacies and shops that sell preventative things like gloves, face masks, hand washes and stuff like that, please, I implore you, do not take advantage of the situation. Keep your profits. I know you are profit-driven, but keep your profits to a normal profit margin. Do not take advantage of the situation and escalate your prices just for money and profit.
And while the government has reaffirmed that there are no coronavirus cases in Papua New Guinea, their biggest challenge is containing the panic that may be created by false information. Scott Waide, National EMTV News, Lae.
The government has now commenced with additional measures to ones already in place to prevent any suspected inbound passengers into PNG with possible signs of a high-risk coronavirus or COVID-19. The Prime Minister reiterated this in a press conference yesterday, stating that all relevant state authorities are expected to prepare and beef up for the worst-case scenarios and make sure all government systems are ready to respond before the virus reaches PNG shores.
The PNG government is ramping up its activities to put measures in place to keep the virus from entering the country. This coming after the increase in the number of confirmed cases that continue to skyrocket throughout Europe, Asia, the US, Australia and neighboring Pacific Island countries. For travelers coming into Papua New Guinea, the government has implemented enhanced screening procedures and entry restrictions in response to the worldwide outbreak. The restrictions prevent all passengers traveling from Italy, Iran, South Korea, Japan and mainland China from entering PNG without first completing 14 days of quarantine outside the country.
As a government, we have been prepared all along and we put measures in place to ensure that if a first case is established, we meet that at the doorsteps and ensure that it is faced there and then or arrested there and then at the doorsteps. But so far, our activities at our only international designated airport has shown no established case, although there were few suspect cases established, and those suspect cases were dealt with in the established procedures WHO and our health department has put in place. Our international flights, as most of you know, Port Moresby Jackson's airport is our only designated international flight airport of entry, and it will remain this way for our commercial flights or our private charter flights. And in those passengers inbound, 5 countries, passengers who are coming in from 5 countries, namely China, South Korea, Japan, Italy, and Iran. If any passengers come in from these areas, they must present to Air Niugini 14 days of quarantine and medical clearance associated with that quarantine activities, and then Air Niugini have been advised, and Air Niugini will give them clearance to board flight. And we are also working in partnership with airports that are uplifting passengers. As you know, Singapore Airport, Hong Kong Airport have sensors to detect passengers who are infected. So we are beneficiary to those rigid control mechanisms also at play at those international airports.
With the alarming increase of COVID-19 confirmed cases in Australia and New Zealand, concerns are being raised as to why the current measures do not apply to PNG's closest neighbours, to which the Prime Minister responded that the government will continue to monitor the situation globally and scrutinise the state of both neighbouring countries before imposing the measure against them.
This week we will review this matter to include possibility of countries like Australia and others in the neighbourhood, to ensure that 14 days of quarantine before they come into PNG and an associated medical certificate. And so these are matters that we are working to tidy with the Health Department and Ministry, as well as our Foreign Ministry and Department, to ensure that we are defensive from word start to ensure no passengers who are infected with COVID-19 come into PNG.
Adding that the government will not put restrictions unnecessarily to cause panic and anxiety and jeopardize the economy.
I'm very mindful that other countries are stopping from and keeping their countries now away from flight routes. Let me tell the nation we are mindful of this sort of recourse to take. But at the moment, because of they have that luxury to do because of the economy, which is stronger and bigger. This issue for us today is not just a health issue or social issue. It is directly an economic issue. It affects the economy as we speak. And the economy and commercial performance of companies like Air Niugini, so we're mindful of this one. But if need be, into the future, and we are assessing it every day, every week, and every month. If need be, then that might be the option we take as we move into the future. But right now, in the first instance, we're ensuring that flights coming in are lifting passengers who have medical certificates associated with their travel documents and who have been quarantined 14 days minimum in their respective areas before they board. So this will be the protocol and procedure will be funneling out to Air Niugini as they prepare to uplift passengers into the future.
Annette Cora, National EMTV News.
The opposition has called on the national government to declare a state of emergency in Papua New Guinea as a preventive measure against novel coronavirus. Opposition leader Belden Nama said the Prime Minister's address on Sunday did not outline proactive actions the government will take to prevent coronavirus from entering Papua New Guinea. However, Nama said if he was Prime Minister, he would recall Parliament and introduce a supplementary budget to combat the economic impact of coronavirus.
Outbreak of the coronavirus from China since February has affected economies all over the world, causing a decline in crude oil prices and some cutbacks on the shipment of goods around the globe.
If we were in government today, we would introduce a state of emergency that would solely outline sets of clear and precise implementation directives that would be set out in motion upon the announcement. That is what my government would do. We would call a state of emergency, we would introduce a state of emergency in the country, and we would solely outline sets of clear and precise implementation directives that would set out in motion upon the announcement. And let me say that again. Upon the announcement. As soon as we announce, we will implement.
In Papua New Guinea, certain restrictions on travel and imports have been put in place, but nothing specific on how the government plans to prevent the virus from breaching our borders. Specifications the opposition leader has described as too little too late and says the directives must be thorough and identify steps an infected person should take.
We are very disappointed at Prime Minister's address, which lacks relief measures on Papua New Guinea economy as well. The coronavirus is partly responsible for causing a major shock to the global economies, including Papua New Guinea. While the rest of the world have announced stimulus and bailout packages to handle the fallout, we are very doubtful of the ability of Yen Staki, the treasurer of this country, to respond effectively on the PNG economy and on the nation's 2020 budget. We think he is confused and his continued over-reliance on low-ranked foreign economic advisors is causing this nation much damage.
On Sunday, Prime Minister James Marape outlined preventive measures on travel restrictions, bans on cruise ships entering PNG, and the setting up of facilities to quarantine suspected cases.
Our nation has faced many similar viruses in the past, but our system of government has not set up established protocols to deal with these sort of viruses. Today, from this coronavirus event, we will set up a protocol that is lasting for future incidents like this. These protocols that we are trialing, testing, and establishing will be benchmarks for how we deal with these sort of viruses that might happen globally.
Treasurer Ian Staki has suggested for a possible supplementary budget and cuts to spending as the country prepares for the economic effect of the coronavirus, an action the opposition leader says is important for the country's economy.
In our view, the treasurer is so obsessed with Peter O'Neill's past era of economic management and the KPIs with the IMF's S&P, which we believe are from the old school. Why is he so obsessed with Peter O'Neill? He should be coming up with economic recovery package and any stimulus to stimulate the economy of our country with the current coronavirus pandemic that's affecting the global economy. I know and expect sharp declines in government revenue and economic growth in our country, especially in our 2022 forecast. As the commodity prices continue to drop, investment sentiments will affect both government and private sector. And industries, of course, will be adversely affected.
Meanwhile, political leaders from West Sepik are meeting this evening to decide on actions they will take as a province against COVID-19. At the moment, it is understood traditional border crosses in West Sepik and western provinces are still moving between the PNG and Indonesian land border, despite the announcement of the travel ban. Thaklagunga, National EMTV News.
A police-issued firearm, which was stolen last night when police officers were attacked at 8 Mile, just outside of Port Moresby, was returned to police this morning. In the attack, 3 policemen were badly wounded while they were trying to effect an arrest on an alleged drug supplier. These officers are members of the newly created Sector Patrol Unit.
Following the police raid into the Marawaka block at 8 Mile this morning, 45 rounds of 9mm bullets and a large quantity of marijuana plants were discovered inside makeshift houses. 20 suspected individuals allegedly involved in the attack last night were rounded up and are now detained at the Saraga police station. The 3 officers who were attacked last night were in pursuit of a suspect believed to have been supplying illicit drugs. This images supplied by police shows the extent of injuries sustained by the officers last night. One police officer sustained a deep cut to his left palm when he placed his hand over his head to block off a knife swung at him. Another was hit with a car several times, and the third was beaten up by the public. The high-powered firearm which was stolen last night was retrieved this morning. Thaklagunga, National EMTV News.
The PNG Forest Authority is calling on all local communities and development partners to partner with them in their tree planting exercise. PNGFA Managing Director Tuno Sabuin made this call in a small ceremony leading up to the International Day of Forests today. He says forests do not only contribute to the country's economy, but they also help the planet's biodiversity and mitigate climate change.
In a small event today, school bags, caps and Go Green t-shirts were presented to various primary schools in NCD. This was BSP's way of supporting the International Day of Forest, and they will be partnering with PNGFA to observe the day this Friday.
Encourage a lot of students and schools to also participate in this International Day, learn a lot more about trees and not just logging, the impacts of forestry, logging, all the environmental issues that come with it as well. And BSP continues to be the leader in a lot of the environmental days here in PNG, and we're proud of that.
The International Day of Forest was set by the United Nations General Assembly in 2012. Every year, a date and theme was set, and the theme for this year's International Day of Forest is Forest and Biodiversity. Under the theme, schools in NCD will participate in a poster competition and a tree planting exercise to be conducted in Kuriva plantations in Central Province, and BSP will be sponsoring various prizes in the school competition.
In partnership with Port Moresby Nature Park, this year as well we'll be coming on board for the NCDC World Environment Day, which will be a silver sponsor. However, for International Forest Day, this is the first one. We're happy that PNG Forest Authority approached BSP to sponsor one of the prizes, and we look forward to the day on Friday and on Saturday, which is the actual day.
In thanking BSP for their partnership, PNGFA Managing Director Tuno Sabuin highlighted the importance of forest as an important asset. He said forests are considered as the earth's lung, and protecting them is crucial.
We need to understand and appreciate the importance of it and what the forest can do in terms of its benefits. It's not only providing the economy for this country or generating economy for this country and other monetary benefits, but also the forest can be used to provide any other environmental values that is very important for us all.
According to the MD, up to 87% of people in developing countries depend on the forest for their livelihood, and the loss of forest contributes to over 12% of all greenhouse gas emissions. He further highlighted the government's plan to plant over 800,000 trees by 2050.
PNGFA is fully committed to tree planting program throughout the country, and we have a target set at 800,000 by the government 2050 vision. So we have to work hard to try and achieve the target.
He further called on all development partners and local communities to plant over 25,000 hectares of trees every year to help achieve their aim.
We are required to help the communities and also other development partners to plant at least about 25 to 30,000 hectares of trees every year. So that's a big task, but with partnership, public-private partnership, and with the assistance of everyone, we can be able to achieve the target.
Rayon Lakingu National, MTV News.
Gulf Governor Chris Haiveta says landowner content in the Papua LNG project must be of importance. While the $13 billion project is being delayed technically, Governor Haiveta wants affected project communities to have proper infrastructure, better health and education services in the area ahead of the project. He says the gas deal is crucial for Gulf people and the country.
The Papua LNG project is the next big gas prospect following the PNG LNG project. Host Governor Chris Haiveta says the project is crucial for Gulf. He wants stakeholders in the gas deal to prioritize resource owners.
What I expect from this project is, firstly, that the law and the policies of the government and the agreements that we have reached, especially under the gas agreement, and the benefits of that flowing down to the province in the understandings we reached before the government change is maintained.
Despite sharing boundaries with the state capital, Gulf lacks most significant infrastructure and has an average level in delivery of services. Governor Iveta says affected communities must see better bridges, roads and other services. He says locals must be involved in all aspects of the gas project.
The people, especially along the impact areas and the rest of the provinces, is properly prepared and educated, and also working together with Total to bring them up to a level where they can participate meaningfully under local content and participation.
The state secured minor concessions with French company Total SA for the expansion of the project and will continue gas projections with the PNG LNG project at the cost of $13 billion. Project developer Total is dismayed with technical delays but says is committed to help.
However, with West New Britain having an average rainfall of over 3 meters every year, many bridges in the province are washed away during the rainy season.
Every year, me plus have losing bridges like year and year after, and it's a waste of money and time and resources. Moreover, waste of also time bridge me brook NBPL moving fruit, even Hagi oil palm Narpla side moving fruit.
With the bridges now refurbished, the province is expected to generate more revenue from oil palm and subsistence farmers transporting their goods to sell in the main markets.
Plandi up kona blo Papua New Guinea nogat road na bridge. Lucky blow you must talk thank you na kisim. Now look out him.
The other provinces that will benefit through the BIRAP program include East Sepik, Medang and Central. Tekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
A number of high-profile Papua New Guineans were among at least 800 students who graduated yesterday at the Divine Word University. Among them was the Assistant Commissioner of Police for the Northern Command, Chief Superintendent Peter Guinness, who graduated with a master's degree in public administration. ACP Guinness says this is a huge achievement for his career. He also holds a bachelor's degree at the University of Papua New Guinea.
The Assistant Commissioner of Police says this achievement can also be a challenge to other police personnel to pursue their dreams. Chief Superintendent Peter Guinness says policemen and women can continue their education while serving as a police officer.
We will see, as you know, there is nothing stopping them from pursuing their studies. They can pursue their studies at the tertiary levels, at the university levels, and go on. We already have a doctor who is a police officer in Port Moresby. And there are not so many of us with a master's degree. There are a good number of senior police officers, serving police officers with master's degree. And I am also one of them now who will add on to the number of current officers that who possess master degrees.
Guinness further states this is something the RPNGC is looking at to encourage officers. The RPNGC is also working with the Australian Federal Police to sponsor officers through the Work One Time program.
And I was fortunate enough to be sponsored by the Australian Federal Police to come here to undertake this study. And apart from myself, there is a Senior Inspector Josephine Kumai. She also graduated with a bachelor's degree in management. And it was all sponsored by the Australian Federal Police through the Work One Time program.
Through the training and program officers undertake, RPNGC can be able to make some changes within the organization to improve on the day-to-day programs the organization is faced with.
Yes, it now sees a way forward for police officers to change. We have had a lot of problems within the organization, particularly there is issues of violence against women. We also have that in the organization, police brutality and all that. So within those kind of training and the courses that we've gone through and within the system, we can then be able to change, make some changes within the organization to improve.
RPNGC has a training program at the police headquarters HR that is responsible to sponsoring members in tertiary institutions, not only at Divine Word University, but other institutions around the country.
But also at the University of PNG, and I am sure there are a couple of our guys also studying at the Unitec.
Another senior Papua New Guinean who graduated yesterday with a bachelor's degree in public administration is the Chief Fire Officer, Chief Superintendent Bill Rue. Rue says it is in the fire service plans to encourage officers to continue their studies and develop human resources.
Particularly when the government is looking at empowering human resource and the prosperity of each of the agencies to human empowerment. I have a diploma, two diploma in running the organization, but this will add value.
Yesterday marks the 38th graduation for the university, which attracted parents, relatives and the public who came to witness the occasion. The keynote speaker for the graduation was the Australian High Commissioner to Papua New Guinea, Mr. Bruce Davis. Martha Louise, National EMTV News, Medang.
Students of Divine Word University's Medang campus are set to benefit from the construction of 2 fully furnished undergraduate student dormitories. The new 7 million kina infrastructure was officially opened over the weekend. In addition to student dormitories, 7 fully furnished 5-bedroom staff houses housing senior faculty members and their families have been constructed. The new infrastructure was funded by the Papua New Guinea-Australia Partnership through the Incentive Fund. This third Incentive Fund grant to Divine Word University totals to more than 28 million kina since 2002. Ihu Sub-District received a new rice mill today to assist with their rice farming. For 5 years now, the community has been farming rice, and this is a much-needed boost to their efforts. Ward 3 member Paul Mahiro says this will also help push forward the ward's 5-year plan.
Rice farmers of the Ihu sub-district of Kaivukavu village in the Gulf province received a new rice mill worth over 5,000 kina. This is a much-needed boost to this community's rice farming efforts. Ward 3 member Paul Mahiro says a lot of youth are now involved in farming rice.
So that they can get involved in that project and then go with a project to earn their living standard in my ward and in the district.
The community has been growing rice over the past 5 years, however only had 1 rice mill. Kikori MP Soroy AOS says it may be a small gift, however it will help his people be more sustainable, and rice feeds households.
Facilitating the rice mill so that our people can continue to grow our rice on the ground, insofar as providing complementary to what's been sold in trade stores around the district.
The Ward Development Committee are working together to achieve their 5-year plan. It includes involving youth to live a better life and stay away from drugs.
This is the first assistance that is given to our ward because of so when we requested to help the youth, he came forward because he had a look at our plan. He was very pleased, so he said, yeah, I will help.
And Brian Bell Agriculture gave a special discount on the rice mill to assist the work of local farmers. Lillian Sopera Kinea, National EMTV News.
We'll take a short break. When we return, we bring you news making headlines overseas. Welcome back to the news overseas now. To Australia first, and the state of Victoria has declared a state of emergency as the death toll from the virus climbs to 5.
Authorities in New South Wales confirmed a 77-year-old woman and a 90-year-old woman who died in the past 2 days both tested positive for COVID-19. Australia has now followed New Zealand's lead, implementing the same border policies, with anyone entering the country from today expected to self-isolate for 14 days. Meanwhile, Pacific countries have further tightened their borders in an effort to keep the virus from spreading. Majority of travellers are now required to spend at least 2 weeks in self-isolation and provide coronavirus test results no more than 5 days old, but this doesn't apply to New Zealanders. Not yet. Many cruise ships are banned and work permits suspended. 6 cases of COVID-19 have been confirmed in the region so far.
to Europe, and the COVID-19 situation continues to rapidly spread as hundreds more deaths have been reported in Italy and Spain. And in Britain, some people are being warned they may have to isolate for months.
Europe grinding to a halt. Tens of millions of people now living under lockdown across the continent. In Italy, 20,000 people are infected, with more than 350 deaths in the last 24 hours, its highest toll since the outbreak hit. While in Spain, everyone has been ordered off the streets. Madrid, a major European capital, silent. In the last day, the country's reported 2,000 new cases and more than 100 deaths.
It's so hard. You go home and you cannot get close to your child or your husband, but it's what we have to do.
People only allowed out to buy food, go to work or get medical care. Questions now being asked as to why measures weren't put in place earlier when the situation began to escalate in Italy.
They should have put the measures before, because we're neighbors. It was impossible not to. It was going to spread to here.
Across Spain over the last 2 nights, a show of appreciation to thank the country's doctors. In the UK, more than 1,300 cases have been reported, but authorities are warning the real number may be much higher. The government signalling it'll ask the country's elderly and those with respiratory conditions to go into isolation for what may be several months.
We do not want formally to say yet that people should do that. And the reason for that is simply this length of time that they'd need to stay self-isolated, stay at home to protect themselves. It is a very big ask. It's a very long time.
I'm 77, so I'm right into that category and I don't fancy it.
I do think they do have to take it very serious and people to protect themselves.
The world's population now bracing for more to come.
In the US, officials say they are working to improve the waiting time for health screening after chaotic scenes from returning travelers at some American airports. It comes after President Donald Trump extended the country's European travel ban to include the UK and Ireland, giving travelers less than 48 hours to return to the US or face quarantine.
As the last link to Europe closed, panicked Americans rushed to beat the travel ban. Immigration at Chicago's O'Hare Airport was overwhelmed, with passengers reporting enormous crowds and unsanitary conditions.
Here at Washington's Dulles Airport, though, it seems the shutdown is already taking hold because it really is eerily quiet here. This is normally one of the nation's busiest international hubs, but looking at the arrivals board, there is already only a handful of planes coming in from Europe.
Americans returning on a plane from London were grateful to be home.
Just given the timing, I think we honestly just lucked out, just given that we got back today instead of tomorrow, because that would have been a lot more hectic.
The airline industry is reeling from the travel bans and cancellations as fewer Americans risk travelling even within the country. American Airlines, the world's second largest carrier, is cutting capacity and suspending almost all long-haul international flights from Monday. The Trump administration is promising sweeping measures to help prop up the economy as America grinds to a halt.
What I'd focus on is, one, what do we need to do right now? Because it's clear we need to get